Harry, welcome to the Tara Palmeri Show and the Red Letter. You could watch this on YouTube and Substack, tarapalmeri.com. Harry Sisson is on the line, and he has become pretty famous, not just for being a social media star, Gen Z influencer for the Democratic Party, and just, Gen Z voice right now. But you were kind of in a shitstorm recently.
No pun intended, or was that intended by any chance?
No, that pun was
That was
intended.
intended.
Shitstorm. I think that's the only way to describe what you went through. So I will preface this with I have also been on the other end of Trump's truths. Yes, as a journalist, I think it's just a rite of passage. President Trump, during the election, tweeted about me after a report I put out. He, said something like, "It's not true, but it could be true because I'm thinking about it." And it's like, okay, bro. But I didn't get visual. I didn't get an AI treatment of attack. Like, I didn't get shit just raining on my face. So maybe why don't we just watch the video, because it's amazing. Here we go. This is, by the way, this is the future of politics. This is AI.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Where's Harry's face? I want more. Wait, Eric, Eric's gonna come back with his face, because that's really the money shot. Okay.
Oh man.
Apparently. So what explain to the audience, what were you doing? How did this happen? All of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was first of all, I've done a bunch of interviews about this and been asked about this a lot, and it still sounds weird when someone says, so like, yeah, you got pooped on by the president. Like, how does that feel? That's still like a surreal sentence to hear out loud. But nonetheless, it was No King's Day. And so I had been at the protests all day. That photo of me in that AI video was a real photo I took in Manhattan at the No Kings protest. And I was watching college football that night. It was Alabama, Tennessee. Great game. And I had a friend of mine send me a Truth Social link. And that's kind of weird for us. Nobody really that is on Truth Social. Only the kind of the wackos in my view are on Truth Social. And so anytime I get a link from that
but sure, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so that was pretty random. And my friend said, I think you're in this video that the president posted. And I without even clicking on the link, I was like, yeah, okay, look, Trump posts crazy stuff all the time, but he's not attacking me, right? You 23-year-old content creator. And then what do you know? I click on the link and there it is. And I had to watch it a couple of times to process what I had just seen.
Right.
And I think my initial reaction was just like disbelief.
Yeah. Okay. You did speculate that you could sue him, or you are considering suing him. And I heard that you're actually taking this seriously. So on what grounds could you sue Trump over this?
Well, I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to speculate as to what we could or couldn't do. I'm still in college, still studying law undergrad, but I won't speak on the exact statute or whatever we might sue over. But, I've had people reach out to me who are in the legal field and like, maybe this is something you want to consider. And so, for people that know more about this than I'm happy to listen to their opinion and, hear them out.
But what would it be like? What would the grounds be? What did they say? What would you say you could sue on?
I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not an expert, so I don't want to mangle their words, which I probably would do. So I guess I'll just leave it at, we're exploring. If something comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't,
Is it like for using your likeness? Is that what they're thinking?
I mean, there was some conversation about likeness and the use of like deep fakes and stuff like that. But again, I don't want to mangle their words.
Got it. But if you sued him, isn't that a little Trumpian?
No, I mean, look, when there's an actual infringement on somebody, I have no problem with somebody suing Donald Trump. Or if like Donald Trump was actually defamed and someone said something that's categorically false about him and it damages his reputation, he has the same legal rights as anybody else does. But what Trump does is he launches these lawsuits against, 60 Minutes, for example. It's topical with his interview last night. And he knows there's not a case there, but he knows he's in the position of power, he has leverage, and so he kind of gets them to bend the knee. I think that's just like vastly different than me saying, well, if Trump improperly used my likeness, then there's something there. But again, I'm not saying there is or isn't. I'm just kind of
What about when Trump sues Bill Maher for claiming that he was born from an orangutan?
Wait, sorry. What was I actually am not familiar with that case. What did Bill Maher say?
Yeah, Trump tried to sue Bill Maher for $5 million for claiming that he was born from an orangutan.
Yeah, I mean that I think is a little out there. I don't think there's anything that's defamatory there, but I don't know.
How are these like kind of not similar in some ways? These
Well,
two?
I mean, I think this is this is kind of like a new era of law that we're looking at, which is like the use of people in AI videos. I think there has to be protection for people. If it's done in a humiliating way that could, for example, cause emotional distress to somebody, especially if it's coming from somebody like the president of the United States and he's attacking a private citizen who doesn't have as much money or influence or notoriety as he does. I think there should be some protection for those people. And it's kind of weird to even be having this conversation that a president would do this with an AI video. But I imagine that as we progress in this kind of weird time with technology advancing rapidly, this is probably a case that inevitably will come up because Trump or some other lunatic will do something more outrageous. It may be this one, but it, maybe in the future is something more nefarious.
Yeah, but the Democratic Party is using AI videos too, right? I mean,
so give me an example of like the Democrats, or maybe do you have an example of something similar?
Well, I know that
the
they're
Democrats
certainly working on it, and by 2028, there's just going to be a flood of AI videos out there. I think that's just like a fact. I mean, even when you want to post something on YouTube, the question is this an AI video? I mean, this is, apparently Gavin Newsom did an AI video about JD Vance. So,
well, I haven't seen the video of Gavin Newsom doing it to JD Vance, but again, I think that's kind of like a different situation. These are elected officials who have run for office, been in office, and they're going after each other versus like a president attacking a private citizen. And
well, you're more public. You have a huge following. I would say
I'm public, of course.
Yeah.
No, of course, 100%. I just still do believe that there's somewhat of a difference if you're an elected official in office versus being a private citizen. Not that private citizens are off limits from political critique, because I'm certainly not off limits. I welcome political critique.
Yeah.
But this is just like, this is not much of a political critique. I think it was an attempt by the president to not only like humiliate me, embarrass me, but also the people behind me. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of people in that video. And so, I just think it's a little bit different. But I also want to make clear that I'm not like personally offended by the president doing this. I don't really care. I think I kind of treat him as like an internet troll these days. And these are videos you'd see in my Twitter replies. So it's like, it's kind of just like whatever.
Wouldn't you say though, you're kind of fair game if you're working for the DNC or like have done videos for the DNC in some ways?
I have not done either of those things.
You haven't received any money from them?
I have not received a single dime from the DNC. That is something that Republicans have liked to claim, but I have not. And I've by the way, always said that if the DNC wants to start handing me checks to do what I'm already doing, I'm not going to say no, right? Like if they want to pay me to do this, I'm not going to say no. And I've been very open about that, but no, unfortunately they have not. That'd be great though.
Yeah. A lot of super PACs though do work with creators. Yeah. The source of that is the Daily Caller, to be clear. So you're denying their reporting in which they claim that they have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to the employer of your employer, Palette Management. So I guess that's what they're claiming. The DNC has paid Palette that manages you.
Yeah, Palette is not my employer. They're my management team. So they do like contract negotiation, or if somebody reaches out for a collaboration, which your team kind of went through as well for this, it kind of goes through them. But no, they don't pay me money. Palette doesn't pay me money. If like, for example, I've done work with Planned Parenthood before, and that contract was negotiated through Palette. So they'll take a cut and then give me, whatever my cut is of that contract, but they're not paying me money. Money's certainly not being funneled through them to me, which I think would violate a number of different laws, I imagine. But no, if the Daily Caller is claiming I've received hundreds of thousands of dollars, number one, I wish that was the case, and also number two, that's not true.
Okay, so it's Palette, the marketing firm that works with you, that's gotten the money.
The management team, they have like I believe there's wings of it, and I only work with the management team.
Got it. I know you're probably like, why are we getting into the nitty gritty? But this is going to be very influential, I think, in 2026 and 2028. You are for a party that has been lost in the gerontocracy. You are a face of the Gen Z, and so you're very influential. And do you think that you'll end up running for office?
Well, first and foremost, I don't mind getting into the nitty gritty. I think
Mhm.
we need more people who will speak honestly and authentically about these things, and I'm
Yeah.
not really afraid to. So I know you're a fantastic journalist. I've seen your work on the Epstein stuff. I think it's great. So no problems there. You don't have to apologize for anything like that. But in terms of my running for the office or any office in the future,
Mhm.
maybe I won't rule anything out. I'm still too young to run for Congress,
Yeah, right.
unfortunately. Can't run for senator or president anytime soon, but I won't rule anything out. We'll see where the winds take me. I think you can be both influential in politics from outside government and inside government. And if I feel like there's an opening that makes sense, or if the party were to approach me, for example, or I felt like I'm not making a big enough difference outside of the government, it would be better for
Mhm.
me inside, then maybe I'll explore that.
Really quick, my producer just flagged one thing. He did say that you received $6,000 from a Democratic super PAC to
Yeah.
consult Midas Touch on social media.
Oh God, I love the Midas Touch guys. Yeah, that was years ago. I think that was like 2022. But I've done social
Yeah,
media consulting. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that just makes the most sense. As somebody who's done social media for we're approaching 6 years now.
yeah.
They'd probably reach out to somebody in this field as opposed to I don't know, like a Democratic staffer or something.
That has no experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Gen Z. They seem to be bailing on Trump. According to the latest YouGov Economist poll, it shows that Trump has a net approval rating of around negative 50 points among voters under the age of 30. But clearly, he somehow, not somehow, he had a message of affordability that won them over in the last election. What do you think is the reason behind this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched on it there, the affordability question. I think this requires a more nuanced answer, a long length
Mhm.
answer that I'm certainly more than I can give you right now. But my initial thoughts are that, if you're a young person and you're between the ages of like 18 to 24, let's just say, for example, and
Mm.
you've never really paid attention to politics before, but you do know things aren't working for you. You can feel it. You can feel that, your job's not paying you
Mm.
enough. You can't buy a house. You feel like you can't start a family. You're struggling to make ends meet. It's hard to even put food on the table every week for yourself or even your family. When you look at that, you don't have to be politically informed to know that that's not working for you. And so you have this election, you have, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and there's the dropping out of a candidate, and the messaging is kind of different,
Mhm.
and you're not really seeing them enter the spaces that you pay attention to. And then in comes Donald Trump, and he's going on every Twitch stream ever. He's talking to any content creator who's willing. He's going on these kind of comedian MAGA bro podcasts and reaching that audience of especially young men who feel like things aren't working for them. And this might be the first time they've actually ever heard a politician speak directly to them in their spaces. And so if you're politically uninformed, you don't know much about Kamala Harris, you don't know much about Trump, but you're
Mm.
hearing Trump talk about affordability and how he's going to make your life better, and you're not hearing from much from Kamala Harris, it makes sense why so many people eventually voted for Trump. And I hate the guy. I despise Donald Trump with every fiber of my being.
Mm.
But he won the social media battle, and now after he promised to eliminate inflation on day one, make it easy to buy a house, all of that has not happened. A lot of that has backfired. Inflation's only gone up, prices have only gone up. And instead of focusing on these issues, he's focused on a ballroom. So this is my long way to say that Donald Trump made promises and he's breaking those promises. And historically, politically, that's a killer.
And you think the kids have caught on that they're
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that they thought this was gonna be handled on day one. They believed
Yes.
him when he said day one. Also, he was smart to go on podcasts. He was smart to talk to the broverse, whereas Democrats chose a more traditional media lane, and instead of going on comedians on YouTube, they went on late night show, and
Yeah.
Trump didn't have to do it. In fact, he barely gave a single traditional media interview at all,
That's right. Yeah.
bypassed media entirely.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was a crazy. I mean, the media landscape has just shifted so much where that can be a recipe for success. I mean, it was a recipe for success, and it was unfortunate because as a creator, somebody who's been doing this for a long time, I didn't actually speak with Kamala Harris at all before the election, and of course, she was incredibly busy. She had 107 days to run a campaign, and she had to be everywhere doing all these rallies, getting into swing states. So I understand that folks like myself and others, my peers, my colleagues, are probably not first in line for an interview with the vice president, the presidential candidate as well. But I imagine if she had more time, she would have done it. But yeah, I didn't
I
talk
don't
to Kamala
know.
Harris.
I feel like 100 and I hate that excuse of we didn't have enough time. Sometimes having a short campaign is a good thing.
It can be.
And if you know that that's going to get the demographic you need out, then you should do it, you know? And I don't know. I'm a little tired of the excuses. I know she's on a book tour right now. And I'm curious, what do you think about it? Do you think she should run? I mean, what do you think about her book tour?
I actually went to her first night in New York City, and I thought it was great. I thought it was entertaining and kind of interesting to hear her behind the scenes perspective of the 107-day stretch as to whether she should run. I think it's just like way too early for that to be said. I want a really robust primary in 2028. I want them to duke it out. I want Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro, Wes Moore, whoever decides to run. Love all of these people, would be happy with them as the Democratic presidential candidate. But I'd love to hear them go at it on a debate stage and not attack each other, but lay out their vision. So if Kamala Harris wants to get in that ring and she becomes the nominee, of course I will support her. And if she wants to run, I will support her as a Democrat running. But I'm not going to, like, you know, sign myself to a candidate yet.
Is there anyone that you're excited by already that you feel like has the ability to be the leader of the pack?
Yeah, I think Gavin Newsom has really put up a good fight against Donald Trump. He's excited me, and he's excited a lot of people. But of course, it's not just him. He happens to be the guy kind of leading the charge, especially with Prop 50 upcoming. But I've spoken with Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. I've spoken with Josh Shapiro, you know, over the years. And all of them are really talented. All of them are really smart. And I think if they got into the office, they would do a fantastic job. So we have a deep bench, and any of the names kind of being floated, I really like.
Okay. Wanted to ask you about Biden. I was talking to a Democratic operative just yesterday, and they were just saying part of the problem, part of the reason that the Democratic Party has such a low approval rating in the 20s, it's crazy, is they can't get the stink of Biden off them. It's just still on them, on the party. And I know that you supported him up until the bitter end. Looking back on it, do you have any regrets?
No, in terms of support for Biden, not at all. I think he was a fantastic president. He got more done in 4 years than most presidents get done in 8. He's the most legislatively accomplished president in modern American history. And it frustrates me when, and this is something that Gavin Newsom actually said recently, when we as Democrats try to run away from that record as opposed to celebrating it. There were certainly things that hurt the Biden presidency that I would argue were out of his control, like inflation, for example. The president doesn't have a magic lever they can pull to bring it up or down. But when we're talking about a generational investment in infrastructure, we're talking about a generational investment in renewable energy, veterans health care that over 1 million people signed up for before Biden left office, and many other achievements I could go on about. I think that's something to celebrate. I think that's who we are as Democrats, investing in America, investing in our most valuable, and fighting for this country. But I understand that a lot of people disapprove of Biden or view him negatively out of office. There were mistakes made for sure, but I'm never going to like turn my back on somebody who invested so much in this country.
Yeah, but like, don't you feel like he was dishonest about his condition and his health and his ability to lead?
No, I don't think Joe Biden was dishonest. I can speak from personal experience because I interviewed him in May of 2024 during the elections, or maybe it was March, actually. It was that spring, put it that way. It was that spring of March of 2024. And I met with him in the Oval Office shortly before he left office, maybe like under 20 days or just over 20 days before he left office in late December. And I, both of those times, had no concern about Joe Biden. I'm not a doctor either. I'm just speaking from what I saw. But I didn't have any concerns, put it that way.
You would have been okay if he had another 4 years in office, even the way
Well, put it this way. I certainly would have liked Joe Biden over Donald Trump. I also, in hindsight, would have liked a passing of the baton to a younger generation, because even though I felt that Biden was fit as president, a lot of people didn't. And so what I think is kind of irrelevant on the matter. And yeah, I wish we would have made that decision earlier. Hindsight's 2020. Probably should not have run. But you know, we are here now.
He made Trump look cogent on that debate stage, and now you know you're seeing people who are, defenders of Trump kind of face the same questions about his health.
Mm.
I mean, what do you say to those people who are saying, don't worry about the fact that there's blood pooling around his ankles, or that he's got, he's got bruises, or he just had to get an MRI at a physical. Like, I mean, it's the same. We're having the same we're in the same place, but shoes on the other foot. So do you think it's that he should be supported throughout his health journey?
I mean, supported in what way? Politically or from his family?
I mean, from politically, yeah. Like, should he have the right to remain in power, not be asked questions about it, not have to disclose what's happening, to his health, with his health? Should he? I mean, this is the thing. When you get older, it happens really fast. Like, getting old it happens like 80 to 81 to 82. You see decline happen in a much more rapid way. I mean, that's what people say. So what do you think about that? And at the same time, like, Biden at the time when he was president did not offer any access to the press. Like, that's great that you got an interview, but for the most part, like, he didn't even give the New York Times an interview. He didn't let press into the Oval the way that Trump does every single day. So at least the press can, like, look at him and evaluate him from every single day. And whereas with Biden, they didn't have that opportunity to. So, looking at this now with some hindsight, do you think that Trump should also be protected in the same way that Biden is, or not be held to a high standard?
I mean, I think both of them should be held to the exact same high standard. I don't think either of them should be, like, protected from the media. And it's kind of hard for me to get on board with the Joe Biden was protected line when I was given access to him twice in those kind of final months of his presidency.
Influencer, you're not coming at it as from a perspective as an independent journalist who's not aligned with the party. You know what I mean?
But I mean,
the wrong way, but, like,
no, I'm not at all. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm not at all. No, I totally understand what you're saying.
Why not give the New York Times an interview? Why not give the Wall Street Journal an interview? Why not give, the outlets that are not supporting him, essentially? Or at least,
well, I mean, I think, again, Joe Biden did a lot of interviews on his way out of office. He did I think, like, an over hour-long sit-down with the Midas Touch group or around that, and Midas Touch is certainly left, but, the interview was published. You can see him for yourself. It's not like he was, speaking through a phone or anything like that, or texting, like, as Trump does some of his interviews. But no, I mean, I
wants Democrats to win. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not the same type of thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not denying that. I just think that if there was something so wrong with Joe Biden that the White House was trying to protect him, they wouldn't give access to someone like me or my peers or Midas Touch for a sit-down interview. If there was something so drastically wrong. And again, I'll reiterate that when I saw Joe Biden, and again, I'm not a doctor, I didn't have any concerns. And I didn't see him all the time. I didn't see him operate, but from all the people in his inner circle, they said that there was nothing wrong and they saw him operate at a high level. But with Donald Trump, I think that the health signs are far more worrying, especially with his recent admission of an MRI. You don't get MRIs for no reason. Doctors do them for a reason. They see something wrong with a patient and they want a closer look at your organs or your spine or whatever it might be. That is more concerning than Joe Biden, like, flubbing his words every once in a while to me.
Special counsel Robert Hur said that there were signs that he was an older man that couldn't answer questions. So there were signs.
I just want to touch on that because there's like a big misconception about what Robert Hur actually said. What he said in the quote that you're referencing is that Joe Biden would be perceived by a jury as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The poor memory is not because Joe Biden is cognitively declining, but because a lot of the alleged actions took place
he couldn't
10, 15, 20 years ago.
Child had died. His children.
But that's also not exactly true. I mean, they had a long, in-depth conversation about this, and there was some conversation about he couldn't remember the exact date of the death, when in reality he did in the year.
Listen, anyone can watch that performance on the debate stage. Anyone can watch his interview with George Stephanopoulos. I mean, this is not, I think, I don't think I don't think you can debate what was in plain sight, but I do kind of want to keep going about Gen Z and what you represent. Like what's your demo? Who are the people that watch you and listen to you, and what would you say who are they?
Well, it depends on the platform. So
Mhm.
on TikTok, for example,
Yeah.
very young platform, my audience leans more young. I think
Yeah.
like 50% of my followers are under the age of, and I'm just kind of ballparking here, maybe like
Yeah.
35 or something like that. Whereas on other platforms, it skews a little bit older. So Twitter,
Mhm.
for example, is a very older platform. There's not many young people on Twitter.
Mhm.
YouTube as well, I think, is older. But yeah, that's kind of the mix of my audience, and I have like 80 to 90% of people on all platforms in the United States, and then there's a lot of folks from Canada and Europe and places like that.
Um, Interesting. Canada.
Canada, yeah, a lot of Canadians, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, how are you feeling about this Mamdani election? You haven't come out really and endorsed him or said much about him. What do you think about him and the idea that Democrats are now unafraid of the word socialism, or at least there's a new generation of Democrats who are unafraid of that word, as their baby boomers still have tremors from having to hide under their school desks during the Cold
Yeah.
War.
Well, I did say on a podcast that I didn't really talk about all that much that I would be voting for Mamdani, and I have voted for Mamdani in this election because I'm a believer in kind of if the Democratic nominee is running in a race, then we should support that nominee. And Zohran Mamdani is the nominee. And while I'm kind of like a Joe Biden liberal, as we've talked about,
Yeah.
kind of in line with somebody like Obama, I disagree with Zohran Mamdani on policy positions. But if he's a Democratic nominee, I'm going to support him. And also, I think he's brought a kind of excitement to the Democratic Party and young people that actually has gotten them out to vote and to embrace politics and to think about these issues when a lot of politicians, especially some of the leaders we have in Congress, are not all that inspiring, and they haven't been able to do that. And so I welcome it. And if I'm not going to sit here and call Zohran Mamdani a communist or a socialist. I
Yeah.
do, however, I'm not a fan of the idea of socialism being a word associated with the Democratic Party. I think we got to run away from that as fast as we can. And
Mm.
instead of using these labels and almost doing the work of the Republicans for them by self-assigning these labels, I think we should talk about the policy, how we're going to make things more affordable and things like that.
Yeah. So that's what's concerning to you, is the label. Is there anything else concerning
Yeah.
to you about his run or his candidacy?
Yeah, I mean, I look, I've had some of my Jewish friends reach out to me and express concern
Mm.
over some of his comments historically, and that's something that I take incredibly seriously.
Mm.
Hate against anybody, any statement that can be construed as a target on anybody is something I fully condemn. And so I've dug through the statements. I've listened to him speak recently about it, and to me, I'm comfortable. A lot of other people have said that they're comfortable, or at least the friends I've spoken to behind the scenes that are Jewish say, they might disagree with him on policy, but are comfortable. But I think it's mostly those two things.
Okay. So it's mostly Israel. I mean, how does the Democratic Party deal with that divide? I feel like it is one of the biggest wedges in the party right now. It almost could create a third party, frankly.
Yeah, right. It
No,
kind of feels like
seriously,
that,
I think
honestly.
it's like the Bulwark Party or something along
Yeah,
those
yeah.
lines.
I know 100%. I mean, there is such a wedge. And it's again, I think this is a topic that requires a longer conversation, but to be brief, I think again the Democrats just have to be honest about this, and I think we have to stop telling people that they're not seeing what they're actually seeing.
Mm.
So when we look at Gaza and we see land that has been completely flattened, we have to stop pretending that that's not taking place. We have to stop pretending that there's not a human rights atrocity taking place in front of the global community. And so the Democrats should be, both morally and for electoral reasons, should be the party of honesty about this stuff and standing up for people whose voices may not be as loud as ours. And that can take a variety of forms. I'm not saying that Zohran Mamdani has to do this because he's running for New York City mayor, right? He doesn't have any control over foreign policy. But I think the main
Well,
point, and I've been stressing to this,
mhm.
go ahead.
Well, he said if Benjamin Netanyahu steps foot in New York, he will arrest him on war crimes.
He did do that. He did say that. But in terms of like the execution of foreign policy and
Mm.
changing foreign
Yeah.
policy, he wouldn't have any control. So to summarize that, I just think we have to be more honest about what we're seeing.
Yeah. Do you think he'll be able to achieve his goals, his promise of universal pre-K, rent freezes, raising taxes on millionaires? I mean, that's probably can't happen because it has to go through the state. Free busing. I mean, what do you think? And if he can achieve that, is that bad for the movement, for the Democratic movement at whole, or is it just bad for this socialist wing, or what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of the policy is probably not going to happen. I think he could definitely freeze the rent because you have that kind of board of people in New York City who decide every year and the mayor appoints them. So theoretically, he could appoint people who don't want to do that and they don't. So I think that's entirely feasible. But this is one of the main problems I think I have with Mamdani on policy, which is I think a lot of it is predicated on things that are out of his control. So you mentioned the tax increases that would fund things like the childcare, the universal childcare. I don't think that's going to happen. Kathy Hochul said that she doesn't want to raise taxes. And if the governor's not on board, you're not really going to get anywhere. And so, but I appreciate the mission. I mean, I think childcare has gotten far too expensive. It's become a burden for a lot of families. And so whether it's free childcare or subsidizing families and giving them tax credits to do this or have the ability to do this, there has to be a different way. And so I think that him speaking to this is good. I think it shows the goals of the Democratic Party, but in terms of if he's going to get it done, that's an entirely different conversation.
Got it. So Jersey, closer than we thought, right? Abigail
Jersey, yeah.
It's interesting because I'm actually from her district, and it was always a Republican district and kind of a bedroom community outside of New York City. She's going into Passaic, where I went to high school. It's very Hispanic community.
Wow.
And she's.
So you're from New Jersey?
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey.
Oh,
well,
wow,
I mean,
that's
I'm
awesome.
born in New York. I grew up in New Jersey, and they struggle, I think, with Hispanic voters in Passaic, and the Republicans are too. I mean, Trump really won Hispanic voters, but they really seem to be the voters that are on the line in this election, and they're a little checked out. But we'll see. I think she will ultimately win, but we'll see how close it is and what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really confident going into tomorrow. It is. I think we're going to win New Jersey. I think we're going to win Virginia, New York City, of course. I think we'll be very successful. And maybe it's closer, but maybe it's also not. I don't know. I think it could be. It could go either way. I think Cheryl's going to win in Jersey, and Spangenberger's probably going to win by like maybe double digits in Virginia. But and I'm going to be keeping an eye out on the results, especially young people and how they're voting. That'll be really interesting for me. And I think that's
come out though for specials. I mean,
well, that's also the thing. That's probably the better point to make, not how they're voting, but if they vote. So I'm going to be looking to see if young people even vote. And I've been encouraging people to do so, but we shall see. I hope they do.
Yeah. All right. Well, Harry, this was great. Really enjoyed getting to know you. Congrats on all of your success.
Thank you.
We're feeling one day I'll see you in the halls of Congress.
I'll give you access. You can come grill me anytime. I promise.
Don't worry. I will find you wherever you go. No, but this is very enlightening, and thanks for joining the show. And
yeah, thank you for having me.
Would love to have you back on. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to discuss.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thanks.